During the wedding, the bride's father, laughing, tells the groom, "Finally got rid of that loser." Emily grew up in a large, silent and suffocating house. The walls didn't echo sound or presence. Everything she said got lost in the air, as if her existence didn't matter. Her father, William, was cold, rigid, with an arrogance that forced respect. He always made it clear that Benjamin, the male child, was the only one with a future planned. Emily, he said bluntly, was a mistake he didn't know how to avoid. From a young age, she learned that her role was to remain silent. Her mother, Donna, was muted, obedient, a woman who erased herself in silence. Without words, she showed her daughter that swallowing pain was the only way to endure. To others, Emily seemed merely introverted, disciplined, too closed off. But inside, she held silent anger, a suppressed desire to be seen as more than just a burden. She studied diligently, graduated with merit, built a solid technical career, and started working on her own. None of this changed the way William saw her, a useful failure, fit only for small tasks. Only when she met Jonathan did she feel what it was like not to have to defend herself. He was calm, direct, respectful. He didn't try to erase her scars, he just made space. Over time, the relationship grew. Even with Isabella's resistance, Jonathan's mother, who saw Emily as unstable, the two went ahead with the marriage. Emily wanted that step, not out of romanticism, but because for the first time, it seemed like she was choosing something for herself. On the morning of the wedding, Emily woke up with a knot in her stomach, but it was different from the fear that had followed her for so many years. It wasn't the insecurity of her family, nor the anticipation of disaster. It was something else, a new kind of nervousness, almost pleasant, as if her body didn't yet know what it felt like to walk toward something she had chosen for herself. She dressed slowly, without hurry. She wore her clothes lightly, letting them style her hair, placing flowers in the right spots. Her hands trembled slightly, but her expression was serene. There were no idealizations there, only a sincere desire to move forward. The chosen hall was simple, well lit, with tables arranged in an organized manner and arrangements that Emily herself helped to set up. Nothing extravagant, but everything done with care. Guests arrived slowly, many smiling enthusiastically, others merely following protocol. There were distant relatives, Jonathan's colleagues, and a few of Emily's acquaintances, most connected more to his side of the story. Still, she felt at the center, not as an exotic piece, but as someone finally present in her own moment. During the ceremony, as the formal words were spoken and glances crossed, Emily stood firm. She didn't cry, but her eyes were moist, not out of sadness, but from a type of relief she still couldn't name. For the first time in a long time, she thought maybe the world wasn't just a minefield. Maybe there was space for kindness. Maybe. The reception continued with light music, greetings, and casual conversations. Jonathan was kind, attentive, moving naturally through each group. Emily watched him with the same surprise as always. How could someone be so composed without being cold? She was happy, even if she didn't show it with euphoria. She was whole, and that feeling was enough. Then, amid the toasts and buzz, William's voice cut through the air like a shard of glass. "Finally got rid of that loser," William said, loud enough for everyone around to hear clearly. The phrase dropped like a dead weight in the middle of the room. The ambient noise didn't stop immediately, but it distorted, as if the space itself had frozen. Some laughed, unsure if it was a joke. Others looked around, uncertain if they had understood correctly. William, for his part, let out a dry, mocking laugh, as if he had just said something witty. Emily froze. Her body didn't move, her eyes didn't drop. There was no automatic reaction, no escape, just silence. Jonathan was a few steps away. He looked directly at William, as if he had been waiting for this moment all through the preparations. Without haste, he placed his glass on the nearest table and turned to face him. "Is that all you had to say today?" Jonathan said in a low but cutting voice. William raised an eyebrow, still wearing that half-smile. "Did I say anything untrue?" "You said everything you needed to make clear what kind of man you are," Jonathan responded firmly. "And you also made it clear that today is the last time you speak to Emily." Some guests fidgeted uncomfortably. Donna, pale, stepped forward. "Jonathan, please." But he didn't look at her. "No, Donna, enough. He spent his whole life belittling your daughter. And today, on the day she tried to start over, he came here to throw more mud." William took a step forward. "You don't know who you're dealing with, kid. This girl is a problem. I'm just saving you from a burden." "If she's a burden," Jonathan said, not backing down, "it's because she's spent her life carrying what you dropped. But that ends here. You're dead to us. You'll never have access to Emily again." William snorted, his face red. "You think you're a man by playing the hero? Think this will last? You're getting into trouble." Jonathan didn't shout. He just took a deep breath. "I'd rather face any storm with her than spend my life smiling next to people like you. You'll have no more space, no more words." Donna tried to put her hand on William's arm, but he brushed her off with a harsh gesture. "Don't get involved, Donna." Benjamin, leaning against a wall in the back, watched everything in silence. His eyes went from William to Emily, then to the floor. He was visibly uncomfortable, but didn't move a muscle. Emily, motionless, felt something new. It wasn't fear. It wasn't pain. It was protection. Not the heroic kind, but the kind that comes when someone simply chooses not to accept what is unacceptable. Jonathan wasn't a savior. He was someone who knew where he was and who he was with, and that was enough. The party didn't end there, but it left a strange taste. Many left early. Others preferred to pretend nothing had happened. But for Emily, nothing would ever be the same again. In the following days, the topic spread among the guests. Comments, whispers, interpretations. Some thought Jonathan had overreacted, others admired him. But inside their house, the silence was different. It wasn't embarrassment. It was reflection. Jonathan didn't apologize, nor did he show regret. Emily didn't try to soften things either. What had been said needed to be said. "Are you sorry?" Emily asked one night, already lying next to him. "Not at all," Jonathan answered. "The only thing I regret is not saying this earlier." Emily didn't respond. She just rested her head on his shoulder and stayed there, at peace for a few seconds. What surprised them most was the family's reaction. William didn't directly approach Emily. Instead, he started sending messages through Donna. Small attempts at rapprochement disguised as diplomacy. "Your father wants to talk," Donna said during a restrained visit. "He's angry, but willing to reconsider." "Reconsider what?" Emily asked without irony, just tired. Donna hesitated. "He said things got out of control, that maybe it was all a misunderstanding." "It wasn't," Emily responded. "You know it wasn't." Donna lowered her eyes. "He's angry, but he's your father, Emily." "No, Mom," she said calmly. "He's the man who spent his life telling me I was a mistake. He was never a father." Donna fell silent. She seemed to want to say something, but had no words. She kept repeating the messages, trying to maintain a thread of connection between the two sides. But Emily didn't answer, and neither did Jonathan. What broke that night wasn't a ceremony. It was a whole structure. Years of omission, contempt, and forced silence collapsed in public, and there was no way to rebuild it with ready-made phrases. But what came after, no one expected. 2 days after the last failed attempt at rapprochement through Donna, the sound of the doorbell on a cloudy Saturday morning brought something different with it. Jonathan was the one who opened the door, still in a wrinkled shirt and eyes marked by interrupted sleep. Outside, with his hands in his pockets and a tense expression, stood Benjamin. "Good morning," Benjamin said, keeping his tone neutral. "Benjamin?" Jonathan replied, surprised. "I wanted to talk," he said. "Resolve things maturely." Jonathan hesitated for a moment before stepping aside to let his brother-in-law in. Emily was in the kitchen making coffee and heard the firm steps in the hallway. Turning, she found him standing in the living room like a stranger. He didn't speak immediately, he just watched. "Dad asked me to come," Benjamin said, "but I also think this has gone too far." Emily didn't respond. She sat on the couch, still holding her cup. Jonathan remained standing beside her, arms crossed. Benjamin took an envelope from his backpack and placed it on the table. "It's just a proposal, nothing formal, just an attempt to restart the dialogue." Jonathan raised an eyebrow. "Dialogue or emotional blackmail?" "It's just a suggestion," Benjamin said, contained. "Dad is willing to reconsider what he said. He recognizes he overreacted, but he also expects Emily to understand that the marriage was, perhaps, rushed, that everything was an uncontrolled emotional reaction on her part." Emily didn't look away. She kept looking at her brother as if seeing him for the first time. "And do you believe that?" she asked firmly. Benjamin hesitated. "I think we all made mistakes, that there were exaggerations, and that maybe if you recognize that everything happened too quickly, he'll be willing to talk." Jonathan stepped forward and spoke before she could respond. "Benjamin, it's better if you leave." Benjamin turned to him. "I'm just trying to prevent the family from falling apart. The family has already fallen apart. You just realized it now," Jonathan said. Emily, still sitting, kept her eyes fixed on her brother. "You still think I'm the quiet girl, the one who accepted everything, the one who didn't want to cause trouble, who stayed silent when Dad humiliated me." "That's not it," Benjamin quickly said. "I just think you're taking things too far." Jonathan pointed to the door. "You need to leave now." Benjamin hesitated for a second, but eventually obeyed. He grabbed his backpack, looked at his sister one last time, and left without saying another word. The silence left after the visit was thick, but not uncomfortable. It was a silence of realization. 2 days later, the doorbell rang again. This time, Emily answered. And on the other side, there was Donna, with a small suitcase in her hands, eyes deep, face worn. "He kicked me out," Donna said in a whisper. "He said that if I couldn't control my daughter, I should disappear too." Emily stared at her for a long time. She didn't move a muscle. Her mother stood before her, not as a messenger, but as someone expelled, with nowhere to go, with no support. "You can come in," Emily said at last. Donna crossed the threshold slowly. She sat in the living room chair as if she didn't know how to occupy space anymore. She didn't cry. She didn't explain anything. She just sat there, staring at her empty hands. In the following days, there were no conversations. Donna slept in the guest room. Emily kept her routine. Jonathan worked more, spent less time at home. The atmosphere was tense, but not from hostility. It was as if all parts were in a process of internal relocation. The first time Emily spoke to her mother was on a rainy afternoon while she prepared tea. "Did he always treat you like that?" Emily asked, without looking back. Donna, sitting at the table, took a while to answer. "Yes, and why didn't you leave?" "Fear and habit," Donna answered. "After a while you forget it's possible to live differently." Emily placed 2 cups on the table and sat down. "You never tried to protect me." Donna held the cup handle with both hands. "I thought silence was a form of protection." "It wasn't," Emily said. "It was abandonment." Donna didn't disagree. She didn't try to justify herself. "I know." The conversation stopped there, but it opened a crack. In the following days, new pieces emerged. Small memories, old stories, broken silences. Donna told things she had never said before. She spoke of nights when she cried in secret, times she wanted to leave but didn't know how. She said she learned to disappear because being seen hurt more. For the first time, Emily didn't see her just as an accomplice. She saw the woman behind the opaque figure. Fragile, yes. Omissive, too, but human. Meanwhile, Jonathan started to lose himself within his own home. He felt out of place. He didn't understand the intensity of what mother and daughter were rebuilding. He wanted peace, routine, stability. But Emily was in another time. She was digging for roots, trying to understand who she was without William's shadow. Their conversations began to change tone. Plans that were once shared became out of sync. "I was thinking of looking for that place to start the business," Jonathan said one night. "I was thinking of cutting down on my work," Emily responded. "I want time for myself." "Time for what?" he asked, surprised. "To figure out what I want, for the first time." The tensions grew. They began to argue over details. A late dinner, a misinterpreted silence, a look that lasted too long. "You don't talk to me anymore," Jonathan said. "I'm trying to understand who I am." "And this isn't about you," Emily responded. "But I'm here, and it seems like you don't even see me anymore." Emily sighed. "It's because now I finally see myself." Until one day, Jonathan stopped in the middle of the room with his suitcase ready. "I need space," he said. "I can't keep up with you anymore." Emily didn't try to stop him. "I understand." He hesitated for a second before leaving. There was no anger, just frustration. Outside, the rain fell slowly. Isabella, upon hearing about the separation, tried to make herself present with words that sounded like victory. "I told you so," she said. "This woman has too much baggage. No one can live with that." But Jonathan didn't respond. He just listened. He didn't agree nor disagree. He knew it wasn't about being right. It was about not being ready. Emily spent the first days without Jonathan in silence. She didn't panic. She didn't cry non-stop. She just carried on. For the first time, she wasn't afraid to be alone. At the beginning of the next month, when the routine began to settle into the silence left by Jonathan, the home phone rang. Emily was watering the plants by the window when she heard the sound, but didn't rush. It was an old phone, rarely ringing. There were no urgencies coming from it. Donna, who was in the kitchen, wiped her hands and went to answer. "Hello," she said cautiously. On the other end of the line, the voice that answered was dry, familiar. "I need to speak to Emily, in person, no intermediaries." Donna didn't respond immediately. She just stood in silence for a few seconds, hearing William's impatient breathing on the other end of the line. "I'll let her know," she said at last, and hung up. Emily watched her from across the room, waiting for the announcement she already expected. "Is it him?" she asked, without tension. Donna nodded. "He said he wants to talk to you, in person, no intermediaries. Wants to come in or wants to win," Emily said, more to herself than to her mother. "Tell him I'll receive him, but it'll be on my terms." The next day, William showed up at the end of the afternoon. He didn't give an exact time, he just appeared. He rang the doorbell with his usual force. Donna answered, but didn't invite him in. She just called for her daughter. Emily walked down the stairs slowly, her steps firm, her face serene. She opened the door and stood there, motionless. She didn't invite him in. He was standing in front of her, aged, but still with the same rigid posture, the same expression mixing disdain and control. "You're not going to invite me in?" William asked. "No," Emily answered. "Say what you came to say." William crossed his arms. "You destroyed this family. Your mother became a dead weight. Jonathan left you. And all of this because you needed attention. Emily didn't look away. No, I just stopped obeying. He narrowed his eyes. You became that. A bitter woman alone with no one. You never feared losing me, Emily said calmly. You only feared me stopping obeying. William didn't respond. He stayed there for a few more seconds, as if waiting for some reaction. A tear, a plea, a gesture. But nothing came. Then he turned around and left, without saying goodbye. The next day, Emily woke up feeling lighter, not happy but clear. She went to work and quit her job, without fanfare, without long explanations. She left with the same discretion she had entered years earlier. At home, she sold some furniture, packed books, sorted clothes. It wasn't an escape, it was a change in direction. She accepted a position as a coordinator in a shelter for women in risky situations. The salary was lower, the space modest, but there was listening, allowed flaws, a way to exist without masks. It was different from everything she had known until then. It wasn't a place of salvation, it was a space where you could breathe together. She moved into a small apartment in an old neighborhood where no one knew her. The walls were thin, the floor creaked often, but there was a balcony where the sun shone every morning. And that was enough. She bought plants she didn't know how to care for, tried recipes she almost always messed up. She discovered she didn't need to get everything right to keep trying. Donna stayed in the old apartment for a while longer. She started to learn, slowly, how to occupy herself. She sewed, read, went for small walks. With Emily, the relationship was one of silent respect. They spoke little, but without tension. There was no more dependence. There was presence. "Are you okay?" Donna asked in one of the rare calls. "I'm listening to myself," Emily answered. "And you?" "I'm trying," Donna said. "It's strange, but it's mine." Time passed. The two remained connected by a thin thread, strong enough not to break. Sometime later, Donna decided to move further away. She wanted to live where no one called her anyone's wife. She chose a simple place, with a small square, cordial neighbors. Sometimes she sent messages to her daughter with pictures of the sky, a flower, a badly made cake. "I did this today," she wrote, "just for me." Years went by. Emily became a constant figure at the shelter. She didn't lead with speeches. She didn't give lectures. She listened. She welcomed with the right silence, with the right look. Often, someone would leave her room saying that for the first time they had been able to breathe deeply. And that was enough for her. "You don't talk much," one of the women once said. "I talked too much to myself for a long time," Emily responded. "Now I prefer to listen." And she listened. Every story, every pain. She never said, "It will pass," or "Stay calm." She just stayed. And that made a difference. It was common for someone to leave her room saying that, for the first time, they had managed to breathe deeply. And that was enough. One day, on any given morning, she went to the market to buy fruits. In the vegetable aisle, she saw Jonathan. He was with a woman by his side and a child in his arms. The boy was playing with his father's fingers. Jonathan saw her. She saw him. The two approached slowly. "Hi, Emily," he said with a sincere smile. "Hi, Jonathan," she replied calmly. There were no dramatic gestures, no long conversations, just a direct, honest look. "Is he your son?" she asked. "He is," Jonathan said with contained pride. Emily smiled. "He seems curious." "He takes after his mom," he said. She nodded. "I'm happy for you." "Are you okay?" he asked. "I am," she said, in a simple way, "but I am." They waved goodbye. No nostalgia, no pain, just clarity. Life had gone on, and they were where they needed to be. In the years that followed, Emily didn't seek grand accomplishments. She didn't want to start a business, nor return to studying. She didn't turn her pain into a public cause. But at the shelter, she became known for how she sustained everyday life. She was the one who organized without imposing, the one who listened without judging, the one who cared without invading. "She doesn't try to save anyone," one of the coordinators commented. "She just holds on together." That's what she wanted, not to carry anymore, not to be an example, nor to explain her existence. William never tried to contact her again. He continued living with Benjamin, who took over the business with the same coldness he had inherited. Between them, Emily's name was synonymous with failure, not out of bitterness, but ignorance. They never understood what they lost. William aged, surrounded by silence. He wasn't alone, but no one contradicted him, and to him, that was the same as living in emptiness. Emily carried on, alone but whole. She had an old dog, a couch with coffee stains, and a routine made of pauses. Sometimes she received invitations, sometimes she went out, but never out of obligation. She no longer wanted to be explained nor understood, only respected. And finally, she was. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, give it a like, and activate the notification bell so you don't miss any of our upcoming videos. See you in the next story.